you want to write a queer story, but you're afraid that it's not market friendly or that it's not mainstream enough. In this video, I want to take a look at this and kind of walk you through the mindset that I would recommend in regards to writing queer stories, and I'm going to include some prompts and some basically some questions that you can think about in regards to looking at your stories and why you want to write them. Now, let's start with a little introduction. Hi, my name is Bridget. I am a queer Canadian writer. I started in comic books, moved to film, and I'm now working on novels. So I have a lot of experience with different parts of the, I guess, storytelling industries, which has created like a lot of experience, but also a lot of like contradictions within my own brain, which I'll get into a little bit later. In this, I want to talk about the concept of mainstream in storytelling and the entertainment industry okay, I need to take a breath. First of all, what are we qualifying as mainstream, and why are we so focused on being in it? Now, mainstream used to be a big thing. Like, yeah, it's the most popular place to be. Like, it's where people go to find the popular stuff. It's like the top rated books, which more and more with the expansion of streaming services, the internet, it's like mainstream does not exist in the same way it used to, because there's so much content being pumped out. It's not really possible to be consistently in the mainstream, because the mainstream, like a river, it's just constantly shifting and it's moving at such a rapid pace that we can't actually keep up with it. So it's kind of a futile battle at the moment. I'm not sure if it'll change in the future. It definitely used to be more attainable because things would stay relevant more, they would stay relevant longer, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And one of the things that I personally have encountered a lot is not wanting to be in the mainstream. I think that when personal story time. I grew up, I didn't know I was queer like for a long time because I identify as asexual and a lesbian, and that the asexual element did not even cross my radar for like 22 years of my life. And on top of that, I was in the special education element of my education system. And so being in the mainstream was not supposedly attainable to me. And so the mainstream was something that was never really presented to me as an option. And so the mainstream concept always seems quite odd because I was never told that I could do it. And so my brain just kind of adapted to the mainstream is not all it's cracked up to be. And sure, there's always like I wish I could have like been like everybody else, like been normal, but it's not better. Like all throughout media, we see like movies and TV shows talking about like the misfits are the more fun group, like Mean Girls, like Perks of Being a Wallflower, which yes, is very depressing, but it's still like the camaraderie of being outside the mainstream is far better. And I think this extends to creative work, and I think it extends to writing stories, because one of the key elements that I've found with writing and creating art in general is pushing against the societal norms and pushing against the mainstream, which, again, like a current, like a stream, is quite difficult, but it's so much more rewarding once you like get to a break that you've pushed your way forward. It's much easier to go with the flow, go with the mainstream, but it's not nearly as rewarding, I've found. Now, before we get into the next part of the video, I want to talk briefly about something I experienced actually earlier today, which is realizing the drastic difference between the publishing industry versus the film and television industry. Now, when it comes to representation, the mainstream of these different industries is very stark. When it comes to publishing, there is a lot more representation in queer media. There's a lot more books being produced every year. I did some research, and like on Goodreads, I think there was like 484 queer books published in 2025 alone. And I didn't even look at how many queer shows or movies were put out in 2025, but I guarantee it's like maybe a third or even an eighth of that number. There's just such a difference in, I guess, values in the publishing versus TV and movie industries. The publishing industry is a lot more open to these things, I think, because they're not as focused on the bottom line as Hollywood and the entertainment industry is. This has become very clear to me as I shifted from the film and television industry into publishing, as in like writing novels. And yeah, it's just the sheer volume of books that are put out every year. I know it's like not nearly as much as how many are written each year, but it's still wild. Like, it's crazy how many stories are put out on like in prose every single year. And I think that that is a real opportunity to look at the publishing industry as a bigger pool, and the mainstream of it is much more wide. Like, it's not a narrow stream. It's a very like it's got a lot of space for everybody. So I don't think that mainstream in publishing is nearly as narrow as the mainstream in television and film, because there's I'm trying to figure out the key factor in this. I don't know if you guys have thoughts, leave them down in the comments, because I gotta move on. But that's something to think about. So let's move into part 2, where we're going to talk a little bit about the key issue that you, my dear friend, are dealing with, and that is going against the grain. This is something that I know is hard. I think that I've just become very used to it over the years, and one of the things about living like constantly outside of societal norms is that you do become quite used to it. And it is a muscle that you can exercise through your work. And one of the things that I want you to remember is that pushing outside of societal norms, outside of the mainstream, will help your creativity. It is something that really does impact how you see the world, how you see other people, and how you see yourself, really. I think that limiting ourselves to the mainstream and what we think the market will deem as good is really damaging for our creative voices. I think it's one of the things, like, I think I've heard it somewhere before, where it's like, if you just try to predict what will be successful, you'll never be right, because the market is constantly shifting. And that is so true. I don't think that we can ever guess what will take off. And no matter the industry that you are in, it's kind of a losing battle. It's important just to remember why you are doing it. And we're going to get into that when we get to the prompts. But I just wanted to give a little teaser. I think that this rhetoric that we have really comes from a fear of judgment. And it's really a form of like desperation for our creative work to be accepted. And there is a fear that surrounds us when creating stories. I think that there's such a protective attitude that we have around our own creations. That's natural. And it takes certain skills in order to separate ourselves from the work that we've created and learn to move past if people will like it. I think that when we're looking at the mainstream, when we're looking at market like trends or anything like that, I think that it can become such a rabbit hole. It can become all encompassing where we're like, I can't write that because that's not what's like popping off in the market right now. It's like, just don't even worry about that. I think that it's really hurtful to our own creative minds to think like that, which this is just my personal opinion. I think that like other writers are like, they like doing that, where they're like, ooh, that's doing good, I'll write something like that. But when it comes to, say you have an idea for a story and you're really passionate about it, but then you take a look at what's working in the market right now and it's like the opposite of what you want to write. Well, you know, the book you want to write or the screenplay you want to write, it's going to take you some time. And the book might take you years. The movie, the TV show might also take years. And by then, the market will have shifted. And maybe the thing that you want to write is back on top. But if you let it slide, if you let that idea go, it won't ever be on top because it won't have existed. This is so important. I think that when you have a story that you are so passionate about and you know you specifically want to see it, and when you know you specifically want to see it exist in the world, no matter the form, you need to write it. Like, it's so vital. I think that it's such a disservice that we do to ourselves when we're like, I can't write that because nobody else will want it. Who cares? Honestly, we shouldn't care. I know that if you're trying to make it your job, you kind of need to care, but at the same time, there's a certain level of concern when it comes to marketability, when it comes to the mainstream, that I'm like, throw it out the damn window. Just don't even care about that until you've written it, until you've written like 2 drafts of the story. Then you can worry about that. Because even two drafts can take you a long ass time. So don't worry about that. And when it comes to queer stories, it's such a misconception that they're not market friendly. I think that we have seen the rise of certain stories in the media. We've seen Heartstopper, we've seen Heated Rivalry, we've seen Red, White, and Royal Blue. These are all getting adapted from books. And 2 of which I believe started as, well, one was a fan fiction and the other was a webcomic. And so they were already out in the public eye. So all of them already existed as a form of media. Queer media is in demand. There is no hiding this fact. I encourage you to look at the success stories of queer media instead of looking at the politics of the current time, because honestly, that's not helping anyone. Our stories can make a difference and give hope to the future, as long as we continue to struggle against the current that is the mainstream. Because right now, what is the mainstream? The mainstream is hateful. The mainstream is conservative and trying to push us down. I don't think we need to pay attention to the mainstream at all, because queer people never really been in the mainstream. Never really been there, honestly. We've always been kind of in the shadows. This is the most in the mainstream that we've really ever been, apart from like some little pockets in the 20th century, I guess, but it's very rare. So yes. Now I'm going to give you a few prompts / questions that you can think about when it comes to these struggles. Like if you have a moment where you're working on a story and you're worried about marketability, if you're worried about being outside of the mainstream, if you just want some clarity on the story you are working with, or working on, one of them. Question 1, what are your goals in your writing? I think that this is so important to have goals, because everyone has different goals. If your goals are to make money from your writing, that's great. If your goal is simply to write a novel that you're really proud of, that's great too. It's just having clarity right now. Question 2, would you still be writing even if you knew you would never get published? Now, I know there are a lot of people out there doing self-publishing, totally valid, but we're just going to talk about traditional publishing right now, because we're talking about marketability and mainstream stuff. So would you still be writing if you knew you would never get published? This kind of shows where your values are. I'm going to bring up our old friend Brando Sando for a minute, because in one of his lectures, he talks about where he made the decision that even if he never got published, if he never sold a book, he would still be writing. And that really turned things around, because he's like, no matter what, I'm still gonna write these damn books. And that really clarifies if you love it. Like, would you do it if you never got paid for it? Keep that in your noggin. Number 3, what makes you passionate about writing? This could be why you love it. It could be what you want to put out into the world. Just in general, why are you passionate about this one activity? And number 4, if you could write about anything, what would you write about? Throw the mainstream out the damn window. You're throwing a stream out the window. It makes sense. Run with me. You're throwing the stream out the window. You don't care at all about marketability. What would you write about? Run wild. I think this would be a really fun exercise when it comes to like writing a really short story. I think it was a few months ago I did a writing exercise where I wrote like 2 short stories. One of them was kind of steamy. And I was just like, I'm just gonna let myself run wild. I'm gonna write whatever the hell I want. Both of them were fantasy stories, because I like writing fantasy. And the fun thing about doing prose is you don't have to care about budget. And in this exercise, I also didn't have to care about word count. I didn't have to care about marketability. It was just anything I wanted to write. And I didn't have to care about the spice level, because I mean, I have read some romantasy, so I can't really talk about, I don't think it was even as it was kind of on the same level as some romantasy books. So whatever. Those are marketable. But they're also oftentimes, I haven't seen a lot of queer romantasy. I've seen like a few, but most of them are pretty heterosexual. So anyway, that is the video that I wanted to talk about this because I don't know, I thought it would be helpful to you, and I hope it was. Leave down in the comments if this was helpful. If you have any other questions, if you have problems that you're encountering while writing, I would love to make more videos like this. And yeah, I'm happy you're here. I don't know. Yeah, I hope your writing is going well, and I will catch you in 2 weeks. I think I'm shifting to a every other week schedule. I'll catch you in 2 weeks with another video.